everybody. Welcome back to the Buffalo Happy Hour. My name is Derek, and today we are doing Flaviar's Advent Whiskey Calendar, Day 6. Michael is not here because we have to record these every single day. I finally got a haircut, so that's a little change of scenery for y'all. But he's not here, so it's going to be me by myself, and we'll see how this goes. If you haven't been here for a little bit, we've done every single one of these so far. We are on Day 6. This one is, let's see, what is this one? Kujira Kyojin, I'm butchering this, Okinawa Whisky. So that's pretty cool. We will get a little bit more information on this as we go into their little tasting passport. But yeah, so let's just dive right into it. Should be pretty interesting. This is the first one from Flaviar in this package that's outside of America and Scotland. So we shall see how this goes. Only going to do half, save the rest for Miguel, my fitness consigliere, Michel. So yeah, let's do a little nose. And through this, I'm going to try to not read anything beforehand, just so I can guess to see, or at least think about the tasting notes a little bit more. The problem with tasting whiskey, and you'll find this out if you do taste whiskey yourself, is you can be easily influenced by what you read. So I'm going to try really hard not to read anything. I just know the country that it's from, so I kind of have a general idea of what it will smell and taste like, but I don't really want to influence myself by reading if it was aged in a sherry cask or something like that, because as soon as that happens, people are like, oh, I pick up sherry. It's like, do you really? But this one, I'm getting a lot of bourbon influence. It's light, like a light pear peach note, so there's definitely probably going to be like a malted product, so like a Japanese single malt maybe. A lot of sea salt coming from it. And honestly, there's a lot of oaky characteristics to it. So if I was to guess, I would probably say that this is a Japanese whiskey that is probably before the Japanese requirements came out, because it's smelling a lot like Scottish or Irish whiskey with that single malt, that peach and the pear from Speyside region. But then it was probably aged in some sort of new char oak, maybe like an old used Maker's Mark or something along those lines, because Japan used to really love doing that. But honestly, it's a very pleasant nose. It does taste or smell a lot like Glenfiddich 15, where it's a Speyside Scotch that's aged in American bourbon oak cask. So that's what it smells like a little bit. Let's go for a taste. Actually, nose, I would probably go B- on it. I feel like I've smelled this multiple times before, especially with Scottish and Irish whiskey that aged their things in American single or American oak barrels. So nothing like too crazy about this. There's a little caramel in there, vanilla, but mostly that pear, and then the bourbon characteristics with that as well. All right, initial taste. Those pear and those fruit notes kind of fell flat a little bit to me, which is interesting. Now I'm kind of like, I'm still in that same vein, but now I'm thinking younger. I was actually thinking older product when I was smelling it, but now it just tastes like, maybe older, because then the whiskey characteristics are going away because the barrel's influencing it more. You're getting your typical wood sugars. This is honestly, this lacks a lot of full body in my opinion. The nose was very sweet, and you're kind of anticipating it being a sweeter product that tastes like traditional Scotch from Speyside region. But when you do taste this, it kind of runs a little bit flat. A lot of those sweetness characteristics are gone. You're kind of tasting a little bit of the barrel characteristics, the oak, the vanilla, but honestly, you kind of have to search for that too. So this initial taste is kind of lackluster to me, in my opinion. I think that it could probably have done a little bit more. Initial taste, I'm going to go C, flat C. It's not terrible, but again, I just think that, especially with that initial taste or that smell, you're kind of anticipating something a little bit deeper. Ending note, a lot of the same. A little bit of like a sugar cube in the ending note. It does bring a little bit of that sweetness back, but I would say that I would classify this as more of like a one-dimensional product. There's not a ton going on here. It just tastes like a traditional old style Japanese whiskey where they blended a lot of scotch together, aged it a little bit in Japan and called it Japanese whiskey. That's what it traditionally used to be before the new requirements came out, I believe in 23 or 24. So yeah, this tastes just like a really typical Japanese whiskey that was aged in a bourbon or maybe like a Mizunara oak cask. That's what I would assume is happening here. Let's read a little bit into this and see where we're at. And if I am spot on, which I doubt I am, I promise you I did not read anything. But I'm going to read you the introduction here. So attention, palate passengers. We have crossed the Pacific Ocean and preparing to land in the Emerald Isles of Okinawa, the southernmost pearl of Japan's archipelago, where a subtropical climate and centuries-old traditions are the lifeblood of whiskey craftsmanship. Okinawan whiskey stands apart, shaped by its climate and culture. The island's warmth and Pacific winds hasten the cask's maturation process, creating a whiskey as vibrant as its surroundings. Not tasting that. Using local ingredients such as indica rice for mashing and black koji berries for fermentation, each sip reflects generations of innovation and reverence, delivering unique tropical flavors. If that's true, I was way off, and I'm not getting any of that. Please ensure your glass is upright during your descent in an Okinawan whiskey mastery with today's sample, Kujira Kyojin Okinawa Whisky. I'm absolutely butchering that, so I apologize. So this is Kujira Okinawa Japanese whiskey from Kujira Kyojin, 48% ABV, 80 proof Japanese whiskey from Japan. It was aged in American white oak cask, so I was definitely right about that. But this is interesting. So this actually says it's meticulously distilled from 100% indica rice and aged for 3 years in American oak barrels. So it said the accelerated tropical maturation delivers lush notes of caramel, tropical fruit, and subtle oak finish. So I was pretty, honestly, I'm going to give myself that one. It was probably smashing your keyboard right now. Like, you didn't even think of that. But the way that Japan, now it seems like obviously this isn't from old school, which I thought that it was when they sourced and blended it from Scotland. But this seems like a new age style type of Japanese whiskey where they're making it with rice. I would probably, now going back into that, say I would agree with that because I wasn't getting a lot of barley notes per se. It was more of just like a lack of depth. And I think just from someone coming from loving Scotch and Irish whiskey, I feel like that's where like maybe it's cool that this is made from rice because it's technically a grain. But in the same vein, I feel like because it was only made from rice, it lacks a lot of depth and full bodiness that you're asking for a traditional whiskey. And I also believe, too, that since this was 40% and 80 proof, I'm assuming that they watered it down. This isn't cask strength at 80 proof. And watering it down takes away a lot of that robustness from it, which, again, is just a very interesting combination when you're dealing with such a bland mash bill like 100% rice. That's my opinion. Final rating, I would probably give this... Actually, I didn't do any note. So any note, I would say probably C- again. Final rating, I would maybe go 71, I think, for this one. I don't think that this is a crazy good product. I don't know what the price is. I will scan that right now. But I think that in general, it's pretty consistent with what I was saying. It lacks a lot of full body, and that comes from the rice. A lot of the characteristics that you're picking up from it is oak because it was aged in an American oak cask, which makes sense, and that's where a lot of that flavor is coming from. But even corn has more of a flavor palette than rice does. So I'm not 100% sold on this product. Let me know in the comments down below if you've had this before, but I will not be having this in my collection. But it is only $27.99, so it is very, very affordable. We do not use the word cheap here on this show because nothing is cheap, but it is affordable when you're looking at a Japanese whiskey particularly. But again, I think that this is just a very weak product. Honestly, I would probably rather get an old-style Japanese whiskey that blends Scotch and kind of matures it in a Mizunara oak, because you can find some of those around this price point. $28 is not going to break the bank, so if you want to try it, go pick it up. It's definitely a good buy because of how affordable it is, but I will not be having it in my collection for that. Yeah! 71, it is, again, Kujira Kyojin Okinawa Whisky. And hopefully you like this review. We always recommend to drink responsibly, be a good person, and do not litter. And we'll see you tomorrow for Advent Day 7.